Hello everybody. For the next little while, the next couple videos and stuff, I'm going to try to make them between 10 and 15 minutes long. I'm going to try to show more in them, but get a few things less done each time instead of everything. So I'm actually trying to show you some more. I hope you liked the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Here we go. I got the lower control arms off. I also took the sway bar. I can't really tell, but I'm going to assume that that's bent through there a little bit. I'd have to have another one to look at that I knew wasn't bent. This has been drug around the field a few times over the years, so it's been abused. This one's kind of tweaked, but that one's good. I'm gonna have to come up with end links. Oh, and for now, I'm gonna use these control arms without replacing the ball joints, because they're not overly sloppy. I say they will be after it runs a little bit, but may try to grease them, might not. Here's the exhaust I want to use. I'm going to have to make it work up front, because I guess that came off the car with headers, I guess. Story on those, you can still kind of tell it. The car that these came off of burnt down to the ground. You can see from the bluing. They got hot, even melted the hangers, burnt the hangers. But what I'm going to do is put it up under there and make something to go from the manifolds into here somewhere, because I wanted it to have twins before I cranked it. Who would have really thought it that the original front clip frame section, whatever, the bolts would come almost right out of the control arms, but the car's frame that I'm using is rusted in tight. Who would have thought that? I would have figured that the other one would have been what I had to cut. The other one would have been what I had to beat on, because it's been on the ground. These control arms are in good shape. It's rested in the collar, is what it's done. That little sleeve that's in the bushing. Alright, I got it off. I just kept spraying it and beating it with a hammer, and eventually it started moving. That's the best penetrating oil I've ever bought. So, I'm gonna lightly rake out the cross member. Okay. I want to stick the other control arm up in there. Before I put the spring back down on this, I'm gonna tap these holes for shock bolts. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some grease on the bolts when I'm putting it back together. You know, I really don't see a difference, but I'm still using this one. So I got the lower control arm back in it. I have to hit the ball joint with a wire brush and the upper one with a wire brush. The threads are okay, they're just, you know, none of this is perfect. So after I get those cleaned, and may hit some of that with a wire brush too, I have to chase the threads on those two nuts for shock. And after I've gotten the spring compressed up in it and the knuckle put back on it, I can tighten those two bolts. And on the upper one here, I just kind of guessed, put thick in the back and thin one in the front. I'm gonna have to do an alignment anyway, but for now, that should have it close enough. You know really who says the alignment on that car was right to begin with. So, no, I didn't replace the bushings. I'm not going to replace the ball joints. I will if I absolutely have to, but I can always go back later and put new bushings in it. I greased the hell out of those two bolts, so they're not going to lock into the bushings again. So if I'm not doing this to make the car look like it's never been apart, I'm doing this because I wanted to make sure that it had the right control arms and the right spindles for a big block, because I didn't want it to set wrong. I can start on this side. Now I'm going to take this side off, or at least start on it. I may wait until tomorrow. But once I get this side changed, I can put the spring and the knuckle on this side. And then I have to come over here to this car, because the other one hasn't got a spindle. The yellow car hasn't got either spindle, and it's actually missing a control arm, both of them. You know, these cars were parts cars for a long time, so that ends up making me have to use crappy parts that nobody else would use. Dad bought this car. A few of you might like this story. He bought this car in 1972. It had 50,000 miles on it. And he had it for about 3 months. It had 55,000 miles on it. He had it for about 3 months, and it might have got to 60,000 miles. And he was coming home from town late one night. He didn't hit the brakes, coming over a hill that has a curve in it, and was running about 100. And he knocked the side of the car off of it. I mean, from headlight to tail light. The side of this car slammed backwards up against the bank so hard that he was in the front seat and he hit his head on the rear of the roof. And for a long time, that dent, you could still see it. You could still see it until a tree fell across the back of this car a few years ago. But there was a dent back here where he hit his head on the roof so hard. And he took the engine and transmission out of this one with the engine and put it in that yellow car. And then he had it for a few months and was racing the boy out the road, and he hit the brakes, and the guy behind him didn't see him or whatever, rear-ended him hard. And then he bought a blue one. He had painted up and everything, and I can show you some pictures of it. But he bought that blue one I'm fixing around that same time, and it was flat out a better car, but he never fixed it up. And I don't know if you guys can tell it, but it's got springs on both sides. The front suspension's still on this car. He hit that bank so hard that it folded this wheel up under it. I have no idea if the spindle's bent or broken. I've never really looked at this car. This is as close as I've ever gotten to that wheel, and it's been here my whole life. Can you tell if that's broken or not? But I'm going to come down here with the rollback and pick the front end of this up enough to take a sawzall, because I'm not going to try to take any of this shit off this car or fit down here. That's too much beating and banging, and I don't want to do it. So I'm going to lift it up with the truck, put it back down on blocks, and cut, because you can tell, you can tell that the lower control arm's bent, and the upper one's bent too. I'm going to cut the lower control arm off and cut the upper. I might unbolt it. It all depends. But I'm going to take this entire corner off and clean up that vacuum plate. Make sure that it's straight. You know, this stuff's been drug around a bunch. Make sure that it's straight. Do the same thing I did to the one I used, and wire brush all this. Now, hell, it's possible that that's bent too. This was hit hard, right on the wheel, hard enough that it folded the control arm up under it. But I want to take it apart and try to use it, if I can at all. If not, I'm going to have to find another one. But this is the only one here that still has the backing plate on it. And it's the only one here that I know was a big block spindle. So I want to try to use this one. And if it wasn't for the fact that it would probably try to kill my ass, I'd try to take those springs out. I may end up cutting the entire frame off. Back here on both sides. But if I do that, then it can't be moved again. So I want to get the spindle off. I'm going to show you some of it. But for now, I guess I'll end the video here. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. I'll see you again next time. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Bye.